In the wide, dusty lands of the American Southwest, life was never easy. The sun was harsh, the winds were strong, and survival depended on courage and skill. Sam Hawk, known to many as an outlaw, moved quietly through this dangerous land. He was a man of strong build, with deep brown eyes that seemed to look into people's souls. Once he had been a soldier, a man who fought bravely for his country. But a dispute over land and honor had forced him to flee, leaving behind the life he knew. Now, Sam lived on the edge of the law, neither fully trusted by townspeople nor completely hunted by lawmen. Sam's days were simple but filled with tension. He rode his horse across the deserts and rocky hills, searching for food and shelter. He slept under the stars, using only a worn blanket and his hat for protection. Despite his rough life, there was a sense of peace in his solitude. He did not steal from those in need, nor did he harm the innocent. Still, the word outlaw followed him everywhere. People whispered in fear and curiosity about the man who lived on the borders of civilization, someone who was both dangerous and strangely honorable. One morning, Sam rode toward a canyon that cut through the dry land like a scar. The sky was clear and bright, and the sun burned down on the rocks. As he guided his horse over a narrow trail, he thought about his past. Memories of his family, his home, and the life he had lost came to his mind. He remembered his father, a man of strict principles, who had always taught him that courage and kindness were the most important qualities a man could have. Sam had tried to live by those words, even when the world forced him into survival by other means. As he descended into the canyon, Sam noticed movement near a small stream. Curious, he rode closer, careful not to make a sound. He soon saw a young Apache woman gathering water in clay pots. She moved gracefully, her long dark hair tied in a simple braid, and her eyes shone with both strength and alertness. Sam had never seen her before. He watched for a moment, admiring her courage. The canyon was not safe, and anyone traveling alone was always at risk. Suddenly, Sam saw danger. A group of men appeared from the rocks surrounding the woman. They were rough, dangerous-looking men with guns and knives, clearly intending to steal or harm her. Sam's instincts kicked in immediately. He had faced threats before, but he had never hesitated when someone else was in danger. Without thinking twice, he guided his horse silently behind a boulder and observed the situation. The woman noticed the men but did not panic. She stood tall, her hands gripping the water pots, ready to defend herself. Sam was impressed by her courage. Most people in her place would have screamed or run, but she stayed calm. He could see her thinking, analyzing the men's movements, searching for an opportunity to escape. Sam waited for the right moment. When one of the men stepped too close, he jumped out from behind the rock with a loud shout. "Leave her alone," he yelled, brandishing his rifle. The men turned in surprise, not expecting an outsider. Sam's presence was sudden and powerful. His voice was strong, commanding attention. A fight broke out. Sam moved quickly, using his rifle for both defense and strategy. The men tried to attack him, but he was faster, more experienced, and determined to protect the young woman. He dodged blows, aimed carefully, and forced the attackers to retreat. Finally, they ran back into the hills, shouting threats that carried across the canyon. Sam lowered his rifle, breathing heavily. The woman looked at him, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and gratitude. "Thank you," she said quietly. Her voice was soft, but it carried strength. Sam nodded, understanding that words were not enough to describe what had just happened. "You should not be here alone," Sam said, his voice gentle. "It is not safe in these canyons." "I am careful," she replied. "But sometimes, danger finds us even when we are careful." Sam helped her gather the spilled water and checked that she was unharmed. He could see the scratches on her arms from the rocks and the dirt on her clothes, but otherwise she was fine. "You are lucky," he said simply. "Not many would survive an attack like that." She looked at him, studying his face. "And you?" she asked. "You put yourself in danger too." "Why?" Sam paused. He had never been asked this question before. Most people only feared him or judged him. "Because it is the right thing to do," he answered finally. I cannot stand by when someone is hurt." The woman nodded slowly as if considering his words. "I see," she said. "You are different from the others." For a moment, the two of them stood quietly by the stream, listening to the soft rush of water and the distant cries of birds. Sam realized that this encounter, which began as a chance meeting, might change both of their lives. The desert, harsh and unforgiving as it was, had brought them together. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Sam offered to guide her back to her village. She hesitated, unsure whether to trust him completely. But something in his eyes told her that he meant no harm. Slowly, she agreed. Together, they began the long walk out of the canyon, moving carefully along narrow trails and over rocky terrain. During the journey, Sam learned more about her life. She was Nayeli, daughter of a respected Apache family. Her people were strong, proud, and connected deeply to the land. Sam listened respectfully, asking questions but never prying too much. He knew that respect was earned, not demanded. Nayeli began to see that this man, who lived outside the law and beyond the villages, had a heart guided by honor. By the time they reached the outskirts of her village, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in orange and purple hues. Nayeli looked at Sam with a new understanding. "You saved my life today," she said quietly. "I will not forget this." Sam nodded, tipping his hat. "I do not expect thanks. Just stay safe." As he rode away, he glanced back at the village. Something had changed within him. For the first time in many years, Sam felt a spark of purpose. He was an outlaw by circumstance, but perhaps, just perhaps, he could do more than survive. He could protect, help, and maybe even belong. And somewhere, in the desert beneath the vast sky, a legend began to form, one that would be told for years to come. The story of a man who lived in the shadows, who saved an Apache beauty, and whose life was about to take a path he had never imagined. The desert morning was quiet, the kind of silence that felt heavy yet alive. Sam Hawk rode slowly along a narrow trail that wound through jagged rocks and low thorny bushes. The sun was not yet harsh, but its warmth promised a long day. He had returned to the canyon where he had first met Nayeli, the young Apache woman whose life he had saved. Something about her lingered in his thoughts, her courage, her calm, and the way she had faced danger without fear. Meanwhile, Nayeli awoke in her village with a mix of gratitude and worry. Her family had been concerned when she did not return the day before, but she had insisted on explaining that she had been alone near the stream. The memory of Sam protecting her flashed in her mind. She remembered the way he had moved, confident and careful, never reckless. Though she did not fully understand him, a feeling of trust had grown in her heart. But peace was rare in the borderlands. A group of rival raiders, known for stealing supplies and terrorizing travelers, had been seen near the canyon the day before. They had been searching for trouble and by chance had stumbled upon Nayeli while she gathered water. Though they had fled when Sam intervened, they had not forgotten her. Nayeli's life, it seemed, was still in danger. That afternoon, as she walked toward a nearby field to gather herbs for her family, she noticed movement in the distance. 3 men, rough and armed, were hiding behind rocks, clearly watching her. Her heart raced, but she did not panic. She remembered Sam's words, "Stay calm and think carefully. Courage is not the absence of fear." Nayeli quickly assessed her surroundings. She could run toward the village, but the men would surely chase her. She could try to hide in the tall grass, but there was no guarantee they would not find her. Instead, she stayed alert and waited, hoping for an opportunity to escape or for help to arrive. Far above, Sam had been tracking the movements of the raiders from a ridge. He had seen them earlier in the day and sensed that they might try something. When he spotted Nayeli walking alone near the herbs, his instincts told him danger was close. He rode quietly along a hidden path, keeping a safe distance but ready to act at the first sign of trouble. The raiders stepped forward suddenly, trying to surround Nayeli. One of them shouted, demanding that she hand over any valuables she had. Nayeli stood tall, her hands clenched at her sides. She did not show fear, though her mind raced for a solution. She remembered the small knife her father had given her for emergencies. It was not much, but it could help buy time. Just as one of the men lunged toward her, a shot rang out from the ridge. The raider froze, looking up in shock. Sam had taken careful aim, not to harm but to scare them. The sharp sound of his rifle echoed across the desert, and the men stumbled back in fear. Sam leapt down the rocky slope, landing gracefully and moving between Naily and the attackers. "Go back," he shouted, his voice strong and commanding. "Leave her alone, or face me!" The raiders, realizing they were outmatched and surprised by Sam's sudden appearance, hesitated. Naily's eyes widened with relief. Sam had arrived just in time, as he always seemed to do when danger was near. With careful movements, he forced the raiders to retreat, watching until they disappeared over the hills. When the last of them had gone, Sam turned to Naily. "Are you hurt?" he asked, scanning her carefully. "No," she replied, breathing heavily. "But they were close." "Too close," Sam nodded. "It is not safe to be out here alone. Not with people like them around." Naily looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. "Why do you help me?" she asked. "You do not even know me." Sam paused. It was a question he rarely answered. Most people only feared him, called him an outlaw, or tried to avoid him. "Because it is right," he said finally. "I cannot ignore danger when I see it, and I cannot leave someone to face it alone." Naily studied his face carefully. She could see honesty in his eyes, a kind of truth that was rare. "You are brave," she said softly. "Braver than many men I have known." Sam shrugged, a small smile forming at the corner of his lips. "Bravery means little if it is not used for something good," he said. The two of them began walking toward the village, moving carefully and avoiding the main trails. Sam knew the raiders might still be nearby, and Naily's safety was his priority. Along the way, he learned more about her life. She spoke of her family, the traditions of her people, and her love for the land. Sam listened respectfully, asking questions without pushing too much. He felt a strange sense of connection with her, despite their very different lives. As they walked, the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the desert floor. The wind carried the scent of dry earth and distant flowers. Sam felt a sense of calm, unusual for a man who had lived so long on the edge of danger. Nayeli's presence, her courage and quiet strength, brought a kind of peace he had not known for years. When they finally reached the edge of the village, Naily turned to Sam. "You saved my life twice now," she said, her voice steady. "I owe you more than I can ever repay." Sam shook his head. "There is no debt," he said. "Just stay safe and take care of yourself. That is all I ask." Naily smiled faintly, though her eyes were still cautious. "I will remember you," she said. "And perhaps one day our paths will meet again under better circumstances." Sam nodded, tipping his hat in acknowledgement. Then he turned and rode away, disappearing into the desert just as silently as he had come. But even as he rode, Sam felt that something had changed. He was no longer just an outlaw living in the shadows. There was a purpose growing inside him, a sense that his life could mean more than survival. Protecting Naily had awakened something he had long forgotten, the desire to help, to care, and perhaps to be part of something greater than himself. Meanwhile, Naily returned to her family, telling them only enough to explain her absence without causing worry. In her heart, however, she carried the memory of the man who had saved her and a growing curiosity about him. Who was he? Why had he risked his life for her? And could such a man ever truly belong in her world? The desert stretched endlessly around them, harsh and beautiful, dangerous yet alive. And in that vast landscape, two lives had intersected, one marked by courage and survival, the other by honor and protection. Their story was only beginning, and the challenges ahead would test both their strength and their hearts. For Sam Hawk and Naily, the desert had become more than just land. It was a place of connection, danger, and unexpected trust. And in its wide open spaces, a bond was forming that neither of them fully understood yet, but both would soon come to cherish. Days passed, and the sun continued to blaze across the desert, turning the land golden in the morning light and deep red at sunset. Sam Hawk had returned to his life on the outskirts of the borderlands, riding from canyon to canyon, but he could not stop thinking about Naily. The young Apache woman had left an impression on him that went deeper than gratitude. There was strength in her eyes, courage in her voice, and a calm wisdom that reminded him of a world he had long left behind. Naily, meanwhile, thought about the man who had saved her not once, but twice. Her people respected bravery, and she had seen it in Sam. But there was more than courage. There was kindness and careful thought in every action he took. Naily wondered how a man so strong and so skilled in the ways of survival could also be so gentle and respectful. Her curiosity grew, though she did not know how to explain it even to herself. A few days later, Naili's village faced a small crisis. A nearby stream, vital for their crops and livestock, had begun to dry up. The elders debated the problem, but no one wanted to travel too far into the canyon to investigate. Nayeli remembered the man who had saved her and felt a quiet hope. Perhaps he could help. She knew it was risky to ask, but she decided to ride a short distance toward the canyon where they had met, hoping to find him. Sam was checking traps near a rocky outcrop when he noticed movement in the distance. Nayeli rode carefully, waving to get his attention. Sam approached slowly, wary but curious. When she stopped before him, she dismounted and spoke with quiet determination. "Sam," she said, "my village needs help. The stream has nearly dried. Could you come with me and see what can be done?" Sam studied her face. There was no fear in her eyes, only concern and respect. He nodded. "I will help," he said simply. "Lead the way." Their journey to the village was quiet at first. Sam noticed how careful Nayeli was, how she watched the land as if listening to it. There was wisdom in her actions, knowledge of every rock, every bush, every small path. He admired it silently. Nayeli noticed how he moved with confidence, aware of his surroundings, but also careful not to disturb anything unnecessarily. They were different in many ways, but they understood each other without many words. Upon reaching the stream, Sam and Nayeli saw that the source had been blocked by a fallen tree and several rocks that had been carried by a recent storm. Sam knelt to examine it, using his hands and simple tools he carried to begin clearing the debris. Nayeli joined him, lifting smaller branches and passing them carefully. They worked together silently, a rhythm forming naturally between them. As they worked, Nayeli began to ask questions about Sam's life. "Why do you live alone in the desert?" she asked. Sam paused, considering how much to share. "I made choices," he said finally. "Some that forced me away from towns, some that kept me alive. Life on the edge is not easy, but it is honest. You learn to depend on yourself." Nayeli nodded thoughtfully. "I have seen that courage before. But courage is not just for yourself, it is for others too." Sam looked at her, impressed by her understanding. "You are wise beyond your years," he said. "Many people fear to act even when they know it is right." Nayeli smiled slightly. "Perhaps that is why you are different," she said. "You act when others cannot." The sun climbed higher in the sky and the work continued. By midday, the stream was flowing again, small but steady. Water trickled over the rocks, returning life to the dry land. Nayeli knelt beside it, touching the cool water with her hands. "It feels like life has returned," she said softly. Sam nodded, standing beside her. "It is the land's way of forgiving us," he said, "but we must always respect it." There was a quiet moment between them, and Sam realized that he had not felt this connection with anyone in years. Nayeli's presence was calm, yet it carried strength. He felt both admiration and an unfamiliar warmth in his chest. Nayeli noticed his gaze but did not flinch. Instead, she felt a small trust growing inside her, a feeling that this man, though an outsider, truly cared for her and her people. Over the next days, Sam spent more time with Nayeli and her village. He helped repair fences, check traps, and teach some of the younger men skills that had kept him alive in the desert. The villagers were cautious at first, wary of the outlaw who had entered their lives. But slowly they began to see the honesty in his actions, the patience in his teaching, and the respect he showed for their traditions. Nayeli's family observed Sam closely. Her father, a proud man who valued strength and honor, spoke to her privately. "This man is different," he said. "I see courage and respect in him. But the world is not kind to those who live outside the law." "Can he be trusted?" Nayeli thought carefully. "He has saved my life twice," she said. "He does not seek reward or recognition. He acts because it is right. That is enough for me." Her father nodded slowly, impressed by her judgment. "Then we will watch and wait," he said. "But respect must always be earned." As days turned into weeks, Sam and Nayeli spent more time together. They shared stories of their pasts, their hopes, and their fears. Sam learned the traditions of her people, the songs and dances, and the ways they connected deeply to the land. Nayeli learned about his life in the desert, the lessons he had learned from survival and solitude. Slowly, a bridge formed between their worlds, built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared experiences. One evening, as the sun set behind the distant hills, Painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Sam and Nayeli sat by the stream. The water flowed gently, reflecting the colors of the sky. Nayeli looked at Sam with a soft smile. "I never thought I would feel safe outside my village," she said quietly. "But with you it feels different. You make the world feel calmer." Sam looked at her, feeling the same warmth she had described. "And you make me feel part of something I thought I had lost," he replied. "I have lived in the shadows for too long, Nayeli. You remind me that life can be more than survival." In that quiet moment, both realized that their bond was growing stronger, built on trust, courage, and respect. It was a connection that neither had expected but both valued deeply. The desert, harsh and unforgiving, had become a place of learning, understanding, and a beginning of something greater than either had imagined. As night fell and stars appeared across the dark sky, Sam and Nayeli knew that challenges would come. The world beyond the village was dangerous, and their different lives could create obstacles. But for now they had found a small peace, a shared understanding that courage, honor, and trust could unite even the most unlikely of allies. And so, in the quiet of the desert night, a legend continued to grow. The story of an outlaw and an Apache woman, two people from very different worlds, slowly becoming connected by fate, courage, and the simple power of choosing to care for one another. The days in the desert grew hotter as summer approached. Sam, Hawk, and Nayeli had spent many days together, learning from each other and growing closer. The villagers had begun to trust Sam, though some still watched him carefully. He had proven that he respected their ways, helped repair fences, and taught survival skills. But the world outside the village remained unpredictable and dangerous. One morning, Nayeli's younger brother Tay ran to her as she gathered herbs near the edge of the village. "Sister, some strangers are near the canyon," he said, breathless. "They look dangerous." Nayeli's heart skipped a beat. She immediately thought of Sam. "Stay calm," she told him. "Go alert the elders, but do not approach the strangers yourself." Sam was already on alert. He had noticed unusual movements near the ridge while checking traps. His instincts, honed from years of living on the edge of the law, told him that these were not ordinary travelers. With practiced skill, he rode toward Nayeli's side, his eyes scanning the rocky terrain for signs of trouble. When he reached her, he nodded calmly. "I see them," he said. "They are not here to trade or travel. We need to be careful." The strangers were a group of men seeking to challenge the villagers' safety. They had heard of the borderlands and the small communities that lived there and thought to take advantage of them. Sam and Nayeli observed from a distance, noting their movements. The men were cautious but bold, testing the boundaries and looking for weaknesses. "Do they know you are here?" Nayeli asked quietly. Sam shook his head. "No, but we will not wait for them to make the first move. We need to protect the village and the people here." Working together, Sam and Nayeli began to organize the villagers. They moved quietly, creating safe paths and alerting everyone without causing panic. Sam showed the villagers how to use the landscape to their advantage, guiding them to higher ground and behind natural barriers. Nayeli helped calm the children and elders, showing courage beyond her years. As the strangers approached the village, Sam met them at the edge of the open land. His presence was imposing yet measured. "You do not belong here," he said firmly. "Turn back now and no one will be harmed." The men hesitated. They had expected an easy encounter, not someone so confident and prepared. Sam's calm but commanding demeanor made them rethink their plan. Nayeli watched, impressed by Sam's courage and strategy. He did not attack recklessly, but his movements and words were enough to create a barrier of protection. Eventually, the strangers decided it was not worth the risk, and slowly retreated, disappearing over the ridge. Sam and Nayeli returned to the village together, heart still racing from the encounter. Though no one was harmed, the day had been a reminder that danger was never far from the borderlands. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Sam and Nayeli sat by the stream, exhausted but relieved. "You were brave today," Nayeli said softly, her voice carrying admiration. "I have seen courage before, but you guide it. You do not rush. you think and act. Sam looked at her and smiled faintly. Courage without thought is recklessness. I have learned that the hard way. Nayeli nodded. And yet you risked yourself for the village, and for me. I do not know many who would do the same. For a moment, silence fell between them, not uncomfortable but filled with understanding. They had faced danger together, and in doing so, had built a bond stronger than either had expected. It was a trust that could not be spoken lightly. It had to be earned day by day through actions and care. Over the next few weeks, Sam continued to spend time in the village. He helped with daily tasks, repaired fences, and shared stories of the desert, teaching lessons of survival and wisdom. Nayeli grew to rely on his guidance, but she also noticed that he learned from her as well. He respected her people's traditions, asked questions about their customs, and listened carefully to the elders' advice. In this exchange, both found a balance, a bridge between two very different worlds. However, challenges continued to appear. Sam's past sometimes caught up with him in small ways. A traveler reporting an outlaw in the desert, rumors carried by merchants, and old enemies seeking revenge. Each time Nayeli's trust in him was tested, as was Sam's patience. He reassured her not with words alone but with actions, showing that no matter the threat he would protect her and the village. One evening, while helping Nayeli prepare food for the villagers, she asked a question that had been on her mind for some time. "Sam, why do you live like this, alone and hunted?" she asked, looking at him honestly. Sam paused, thinking carefully. "I made mistakes," he said finally. "Some small, some large. But more than that, I chose freedom. I lived to survive, and survival often meant keeping away from others. But, meeting you and seeing this village, I realized that survival is not enough. Life is more than living. It is helping, caring, and protecting. You remind me of that." Nayeli smiled faintly, understanding the depth of his words. "And you remind me," she said softly, "that not all outsiders are dangerous. Some bring protection, courage, and wisdom." Their bond grew stronger with every passing day. They learned to trust each other completely, knowing that their lives were intertwined in ways that could not be undone. They shared stories of childhood, of family, and of dreams for the future. Sam taught Nayeli how to read the land for signs of danger, how to move silently and wisely, and how to remain calm under pressure. Nayeli taught Sam about her people's connection to the land, the traditions that guided them, and the strength that came from community and family. One night under the clear desert sky, Nayeli and Sam sat by the stream watching the stars. The cool night air carried the soft sounds of desert wildlife. Sam turned to her and said quietly, "I have never felt this way before, Nayeli. You have changed something in me." Nayeli looked at him, understanding immediately. "And you have changed me," she replied. "You have shown me courage and trust in ways I did not know existed." The desert night seemed to hold its breath, as if acknowledging the connection between them. It was a bond born of shared experiences, trust built in danger, and respect earned through honesty and action. For both, it was more than friendship. It was a growing understanding that life could be better, safer, and richer when shared with someone who truly cared. But the world outside the village remained unpredictable. The challenges they had faced were only the beginning. Sam and Nayeli knew that their growing bond would be tested again, by dangers they could not yet see, by people who would judge or misunderstand, and by the very differences that made them both who they were. Yet, they faced the future with courage, knowing that together they could overcome whatever came. In the desert, where survival often meant solitude and suspicion, a new kind of story was unfolding. It was the story of trust, courage, and the beginnings of love that had been forged in danger and strengthened by understanding. Sam Hawk, once a lone outlaw, and Nayeli, the brave Apache woman, were creating a legend that would be remembered for years to come. A legend of loyalty, protection, and the power of choosing to care for another person. The desert had grown cooler with the coming of autumn, and the days were filled with a soft golden light that stretched across the hills and canyons. Sam Hawk had spent months with Nayeli and her village, and in that time his presence had become a part of their daily life. He was no longer just an outsider, or a man who lived on the edges of society. He was trusted, respected, and quietly admired for his courage, wisdom, and kindness. Nayeli, too, had changed. She had learned much from Sam, not only the skills of survival in the desert, but also the ways of patience, strategy, and understanding that came from his experience. She had grown to rely on him, not only for protection but for guidance and friendship. Yet as days turned into weeks, she realized that her feelings had become deeper. Sam was no longer just someone who had saved her life. He had become someone she cared for, someone she could trust completely. One morning, the village elders called a meeting. They had observed the bond between Sam and Nayeli, and though some were cautious, most had grown to respect Sam's actions and character. The elders spoke in low voices, discussing traditions and customs, and finally, they turned to Nayeli's father. "Your daughter has grown close to this man," one elder said. "His actions show honor and courage, but the choice must be hers. Does she choose to unite with him?" Nayeli's father looked at his daughter, his eyes filled with both pride and concern. "Nayeli," he said gently, "you know him. You have seen his heart, his courage, and his respect for our ways. Do you trust him enough to make this choice?" Nayeli took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. She thought of every day they had spent together. Every time Sam had protected her or guided the village with wisdom. She remembered the first time he had appeared in the canyon, the fear she had felt and the trust that had grown since then. "I do," she said firmly. "I trust him with my life, my family, and my heart." The elders nodded in approval. The decision was Nayeli's, and she had chosen wisely. Sam, who had been standing quietly, looked at her with surprise and deep emotion. "Nayeli," he said softly, "are you certain?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "I am certain," she replied. "You have shown me courage, honor, and respect. I choose to be with you not because of what you did for me once, but because of who you are." Sam felt a warmth in his chest that he had never experienced before. For a man who had lived most of his life alone, who had trusted only himself, this moment was more powerful than any battle he had fought. "And I choose you," he said quietly. "I promise to protect, honor, and care for you as long as I live." Preparations for the ceremony began immediately. The village worked together to honor both their traditions and Sam's background. Simple decorations were hung, symbols of the land were placed carefully, and a small fire was prepared for the evening celebration. It was a quiet but beautiful gathering, filled with songs, laughter, and the soft hum of the desert night. When the time came, Nayeli walked forward, her heart steady, her steps confident. Sam stood waiting, his eyes filled with both pride and humility. The elders spoke words of blessing, reminding them of the importance of respect, courage, and loyalty. Sam listened closely, understanding that he was not only gaining a partner but also becoming part of a community that had welcomed him despite his past. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. Nayeli placed her hand in Sam's, and together they stood before the village and the stars above. They spoke vows of protection, trust, and mutual care. It was not only a union of two people, but also a symbol of bridging two worlds, one shaped by the harshness of the desert, the other by the traditions and wisdom of the Apache people. As the night continued, the villagers celebrated quietly with food, music, and dance. Sam and Nayeli walked together along the stream, where they had first worked to restore the water flow. They talked about the future, their dreams, and the life they hoped to build together. "I never imagined my life could be like this," Sam said softly. "I thought I would always live alone, feared and hunted, but now I feel at home." Nayeli smiled, her hand resting gently on his arm. "You are at home because you have chosen to care, to protect, and to respect others," she said. "And because of that, you are welcome here, not just in the village, but in my heart." They spent the night under the stars, listening to the gentle flow of the stream and the soft sounds of the desert. The air was cool and the sky was vast, filled with countless stars that seemed to shine just for them. Sam realized that his life had changed completely. The man who had once lived only to survive had now found purpose, belonging, and love. Nayeli realized that her choice had brought not only safety and support, but also a partner who understood and respected her deeply. In the following days, Sam became an integral part of village life. He helped with daily chores, guided young men in survival skills, and supported Nayeli's family in ways that showed both strength and humility. The villagers, once cautious, now accepted him fully. He was no longer the outlaw on the edge of society. He had become a protector, a teacher, and a trusted member of the community. For Sam and Nayeli, the greatest joy was not in the ceremony itself, but in the life they shared afterward. Every sunrise brought new challenges, but they faced them together. Every evening, as the desert turned gold and red, they reflected on the journey that had brought them together, from the first meeting in the canyon to the trials they had overcome, and finally, to the choice that united their lives. Their story became a quiet legend in the region. Travelers would hear of the man who had lived as an outlaw yet saved a young Apache woman, and the woman who chose him as her husband because of his courage, wisdom, and respect. Parents would tell their children about the importance of bravery, trust, and loyalty, and in the hearts of those who knew them, Sam and Nayeli's union became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in harsh and uncertain lands, trust and courage could bring people together. Years later, Sam and Nayeli would still walk along the stream where their bond had grown. They would remember the trials they had faced, the dangers they had overcome, and the trust they had built. And though the desert remained a harsh and unforgiving place, they knew that together they could face anything. Their love was not only a union of two hearts, but a testament to the power of courage, respect, and choosing to protect those you care for. Under the vast desert sky, with the wind softly whispering through the rocks and the stars shining above, Sam Hawk and Nayeli stood together. The outlaw and the Apache woman had found each other, and in doing so, had created a life filled with trust, love, and hope. A life that would be remembered and celebrated long after their days in the desert had passed.